Everybody, and welcome to Manufacturing Matters, where we talk about the technologies and trends that are reshaping the global manufacturing industry. Today, I'm lucky enough to be here with Mike Zampano and with Scott Blais from MK North America. Thanks for taking time out today, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Really appreciate
it's a pleasure.
it. Why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about MK. I know you're conveyance and material handling experts here in North America, and then what you both do there.
Yeah, so MK North America is a per-spec material handling solutions provider. That's a lot of mumbo jumbo, right? We do real world Legos, so we do a lot of conveying solutions. We have a large breadth of product, and the company started in the 60s over in Troisdorf, Germany. Mm-hmm. We came to the North American market in 1988, so we've been here for a minute now. Yep. And we operate the entire North American market out of Bloomfield, Connecticut, which is pretty close to Hartford.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm our sales and business development manager. I actually turned 10 with MK this year, so it's been a fast 10 years, but a fun 10 years. Looking forward to the next 10, and I take a lot of pride in helping manage our sales, marketing, and customer service efforts. So MK has been a company that's gone through quite a bit of growth over the last few years.
That's what we were talking about.
It's been very good to us, and we're confident that that trend's going to continue.
So I'm on the engineering side, so I'm in charge of our VersaFlex product line, which is our flat top chain options. And I've not hit 10 years yet, but I'm inching towards it. And I got to see a wide range of different products and stuff like that with my growth in MK. So it's been quite the ride.
Now, are there certain, we talked about the Flex line, of course, Mike, that you're on. I know we've got VersaMove, we've got VersaFlex, we've got some other options.
Yep.
What are the primary conveyance or power drive technologies you guys are using?
No, it's a great question, and before I even answer that, right, it's never a dull day on the production floor.
Yeah.
Right, so week to week, it can be wildly different, from major systems to sort of A to B conveyors.
Yeah.
MK, like I mentioned, has a large breadth of products, so we span many market segmentations, many solution scopes, and it's cool because we're able to make an a la carte solution to solve very unique and challenging applications. Typically speaking, it's a lot of palletized systems. So when we say palletized, we mean finished pallets, right?
Right.
Whether that be a finished aluminum pallet, like what you use on our VersaMove line, or a flexible chain style pallet, like on our Flex line, our VersaFlex line, excuse me. That said, flat belting has always been a core part of our business, timing belts, accumulating roller chain conveyors. I mean, we really do run the gamut. And we're always tweaking our designs, right? I think if you are a company that is not trying to improve upon designs and you get complacent with your products, you're really doing a disservice to your product offering, right? And the customer.
If you're not growing, you're dying. That's
absolutely.
Especially in this fast-moving technology world that we live in.
Absolutely.
Do you guys, I didn't see anything when I was up in your booth last time checking it out, but do you guys also do food grade?
We do. So we do have a stainless steel offering. We call it CleanMove. For us, it's more into the low sanitation, lower pressurized wash systems.
Right.
We do quite a bit of packaging on the stainless side, or industrial stainless steel. So we do have that as a part of a complementary offering for us.
Okay.
But as you know, I'm sure, right, the stainless industry is very cutthroat, very niche, and you know, because of our aluminum-based product line, it's a per application basis.
Gotcha. Yeah, and actually a lot more expensive. But when you're using it because you need clean in place, wash out in place, then obviously there's reasons to bring it into it. Would you consider? And I'm curious about this because I know we know food automation, but it's been a laggard for a long time. You know, they weren't using a lot of automation, more in packaging, not so much in processing. Then the pandemic era came and China changed what they had, their approaches. Their labor shortages were exacerbated, you know, by a whole bunch. Can you tell us a little bit about, I mean, is food gone up and down? Everything is cyclical in life, but have you noticed just a general uptake, or have you guys just been in that place for so long because you're in the packaging, you're in the processing element, you're a core element of all their operations?
Yeah. So with COVID specifically, that's a little bit easier, I would say, for us to speak to.
Yep.
COVID obviously was not a very good time for a lot of people. You know, if we're going to be a half glass full podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do think there was some positives that came out of COVID in terms of how business is conducted.
Yeah.
You know, sort of balancing how you conduct your business, right, and becoming more efficient through use of teams. On the stainless side or the food side, we didn't really experience, based on the applications we approach, any kind of lull or dramatic change. In terms of packaging solutions, a lot of the time we try to steer customers into the aluminum. You mentioned price point.
Mm-hmm.
So again, stainless is a little more per application basis for us.
Right.
What I will say is with regards to MK and specifically plastic module belting, flexible chain, some of our other traditional means of conveying, a lot of it was COVID response, right? So we are actually a big player in helping to speed up the process for manufacturing COVID kits on major lines.
Okay.
Right, because there was obviously a demand and a high ramp up to get these kits out and make them accessible for the general public. So in terms of how our business was affected, a lot of it shifted to, you know, very aggressive short lead time, high throughput applications regarding to the COVID testing packages.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then along with that, you know, our core segmentation has always kind of been automotive, whether that be sub-assembly or larger cell assemblies. So the automotive has boomed as well, and you know the emergence of the EV market segmentation over the last, we'll call it 5 to 7 years, has really given us a lot of unique perspective on the industry and a lot of opportunities and applications to push the envelope as to what we do as a company and really how we look at some of these applications holistically.
So in reference to the automotive market, which has been such a key market driving industrial automation uptake, are we seeing more tier ones and tier twos pay attention to automated conveyance, material handling solutions, or has that always been the case?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's always kind of been the case. What I would say with regards to the integration teams, and whether it's tier one or tier two, the technological advancements over the last, we'll call it 5 years, is really pushing the envelope, I think, on how integrators look at their projects.
Okay.
You know, we actually range a whole bunch of different integrators and customers. So whether it's tier one or tier two, to us is we're kind of playing the same game. It's just done a little bit differently depending on who you're working with.
Right.
But
More of size and scale.
yeah, the equipment around our material handling solutions has really pushed us to become better as a material handling solution provider. And you know, Mike's product line that we're coming to market with. It's our version of a flexible chain palletized system with an aluminum plated pallet. So, you know, Mike's going to have a lot more opportunities to do sub-assembly now on his product line, and let you speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's where the customer drives the innovation. So if we see an uptick in...
No, is this the VersaFlex we're talking about?
Yep,
Okay.
VersaFlex.
Gotcha.
So that's our flexible chain conveyor system that we now included the AP10, which is our new palletizing system, kind of a medium duty, loads up to 60 pounds, so that mid-range loading. And yeah, the customer drives all the innovation just for the fact that if they need something to be done, we have to provide it. So that's where kind of the product development gets
for sure
gets pushed towards that.
For sure, and it's always awesome for us internally to see a core principle conveyor take the next step, or a product line take the next step, and make us a little bit more nimble or flexible, pun intended, right? So we always had, when we started this product line, now what, five years ago?
Approaching
already?
5 years, yeah.
Man, it's quick. You know, we always had a pallet solution, right? That's what we called our PO8 system. That's a Delrin-based pallet. And all of these flexible chain solutions are predicated on high accumulation, whether it be a pallet or product.
Right.
You know, vertical storage is another element we see quite a bit of, but the AP10 edition really gives us that in-between of your robust pallet system, our VersaMove system, and the PO8, which is a little bit lighter duty, smaller scale.
Okay.
So we're excited to bring this to the market. I think it's going to open up a lot of capabilities for tier ones and tier twos, just to kind of tie that together.
Okay.
So we're very excited, and it's already picking up a lot of traction.
So when we talk about vertical storage in terms of ASRS type systems, you know, large rack and vertical warehouse type operations, or just talk to me. Mike.
Yeah, we have what we call an alpine system conveyor. So what it is you have vertical storage in terms of bottling or stuff like that, where you can go up and come back down just to buy yourself time for buffering. So
Gotcha.
we've seen that kind of uptick this year as well, just for the fact that you need the stores in a production line and make sure that you have that throughput. So
Yeah, vertical space is one thing you're
Yep.
pretty much going to have.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
floor space, so that makes a whole lot of sense. So we mentioned technologies coming in. We mentioned specifically the flexible drive. I know robot integration is a key component, but what are the other technologies that are reshaping material handling right now?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It seems
We got time.
It seems like maybe not day to day, because I don't want to be that dramatic, but week to week, month to month, year to year for sure. There's always a new wrinkle, right? And you're always challenging yourself to stay current, if not get ahead. It's very hard to get ahead in this industry because there is so much technology, and it's one of the things that coming to automate is fantastic for, right? A3 does a fantastic job putting this on, and the other booths and solutions that you see literally blow your mind every year.
Agreed.
That said, we've gotten a little bit more into AGV toppers, right?
Uh-huh.
So a lot of companies, especially the higher end companies with a little more dinero to spend, are leaning more towards automating the process of moving larger parts from one part of their facility to another.
Right.
Rack storage or vertical storage is a whole loaded can of worms, because for us that could be something like an Alpine system, to Mike's point. It could be a FIFO system, right, where you're kind of taking, let's say, a tray in, indexing it up, filling the capacity, and then moving it out.
Right.
There's so many examples of that.
Something we're seeing like in the EV battery demonstration a little bit. That was
For sure. But for sure, AGVs, obviously robotics are there. Some of the inventory management systems, which truly we don't do a whole lot of, have really blown my mind to the point where you have real-time inventories fully automated. And then that interfaces in with your AGVs, your AMRs.
How much do you guys have to be concerned with WMS or MES systems? With the enterprise level manufacturing, execution or warehouse management systems. I know that communication interface is critical for you guys, but is that something the integrator is usually handling and just using kind of standard I/O type connections, or does that really come into play when you're doing your designs?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag depending on the project, but on the higher level, by nature of being in this industry as long as we have in the North American market, we have a lot of good relationships, strong relationships with high-end integrators with a lot more capability in terms of the logic.
Right.
Our niche and our specialization really is the material handling,
Gotcha.
right? And figuring out how we can work with these integrators to give the end user the best ROI, which is always really important on a commercial high level, right?
Absolutely.
ROI, efficiency, and a solution that they feel confident about, and we feel confident about.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the most important thing is that it works reliably.
After commissioning, it needs
Yeah.
to run.
Yeah,
It
for
works
sure.
so well that they stop worrying about or even thinking about it. It's just on. It's just on. So where are we headed? I mean, I know we can't look in the crystal ball and anticipate, whether it's going to be, for example, putting cobots on AMR systems. It seems like we're finally starting to see arms on pedestals, mobile systems. But what are you guys seeing when you look down the road?
I'll let you answer first, Mike, and then I'll chime in.
I do think the palletizing systems are just growing.
Okay.
This year specifically, it's been booming. So these machine cells, these assembly operations that they're trying to automate across the country, it's definitely seems to be that's the most uptick that we've seen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the palletized systems, to Mike's point, for us is a large point of emphasis moving forward. And we're going to be hyper-focused and trying to become even better in that space and adding our own little wrinkles to it. I think the industry it's evolving at a rapid pace now. I think the introduction of the early or first iterations of AI now coming in to even push the technological front further is going to be something we keep a close eye on as well. And I'm sure the tier ones have been keeping a close eye on it, because how can that become a lever for them, right? How can it push the envelope on how we do things,
Right.
how we look at things? Can we use AI as a means of changing the way we conventionally look at material handling and automation, right? I think that's a huge part of it. Obviously,
Does that help us drive in faster throughput in terms of, using AI based on whatever object is on the conveyance mechanism?
I would say so, for sure.
Manage the physics basically of it, push it right up to the limit before you need to worry about stuff flying off or...
I think AI has the potential to completely change the entire industry, from the sense of AI can give it an analytically driven vantage point on the mechanical, the procedural, and the integration level, right? So if, for example,
and even possibly the maintenance level.
And
Unless-
for sure the maintenance
unless
level.
that's underneath the operation.
Well, you know, technologically speaking, right, you have people who can diagnose machines without even being in the room anymore,
Yeah.
right? I was in a booth last year, it was really impressive where you put the VR goggles on, and you can see the machine and you can see the bottleneck on the line or the failure, right?
Right.
So, again, and we were probably headed that way regardless, but post-COVID, how can we be efficient without being together in person, right? I think we would have gotten there naturally, but I think that really accelerated the push to make everybody more autonomous without having to leave their facilities.
Gotcha.
You can't replace this, right? So the technology is great, but I think the biggest thing as an industry that we need to be focused on is not losing this, as the technology makes us more and more inclined to not do this. AI is going to be a big driver. Robotics has come such a long way, and it's amazing. You have systems now that are not predicated on traditional electrical currency. You have magnetized systems, right, that will fire a little puck a mile in a minute, and it blows my mind. The combination of all that and then the buzzword of Industry 4.0, it'll be really interesting to see how all of this evolves over the next handful of years.
When we talk about operational control and visibility across large material handling systems, does simulation and the kind of visualization play a big part of that, and how does MK North America approach that?
It's a great question. I think simulation software is a big part of it. It's going to be more of a focal point moving forward, right? Because everybody wants that peace of mind that the process flow is going to meet the demand.
Right.
So it's very easy for anybody involved in a project to go, okay, my piece of equipment is going to do its job. But at the end of the day, if you have a means of putting everything together to show exactly how it's going to run,
Right.
and it's a great way that AI, I think, is going to continue to push that boundary as well,
Right.
then that's an advantageous approach. I can tell you from the MK side of things, we're very cognizant of that as well. And that goes for more than just the simulation software, right? We're very aware that from a technological accessibility standpoint, we need to continue to push.
Gotcha.
As an industry, but also as a company.
Right.
Everybody needs to continue to give their customers the best value and services and accessibility to the products. That's the only way, you know, from our point of view, that you're going to continually give the customer the opportunity to have positive response to your products, short of physically shipping the unit. Right? They need to understand what they're looking at and digest it.
And when we talk about simulation, are we just talking about, you know, during the design phase, or also in the operational dashboard, visualizing operations phase from the centralized control room? I mean, is that a big part of this too? Do those go hand in hand?
I think they do. We've seen an uptick as well in virtual reality walking the line and stuff like that, where they can see, like Scott said, before it gets on their floor and built, they can actually see, okay, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, I don't like that.
Right.
So let's change that. So
Especially maybe you get a problematic motor or encoder or something else, you know, so you can visually identify that for an individual. Okay, you know, send out
Absolutely.
a machine to fix that.
And from the standpoint of MK North America, right, a lot of the times the conveyors are overlooked in line.
Yeah.
In order to achieve what you need to achieve in terms of throughput and presenting to the higher end equipment, I'll say, you need a reliable means of material handling. That doesn't change. For us, you know, again, we have strong relationships with tier ones to the point where they're taking our mechanical, they're working with us on our expertise, which is the mechanical, the conveying side, and putting it into their simulation software as a complex and comprehensive package to the end user.
Gotcha.
So a lot of the times, you know, we work with the integrators of the means of configuration because they need to add their bells and whistles to make this thing function correctly, to which we have no real say over. So it's a lot more collaborative for us.
One of my last questions, but how do robots impact your designs? You know, because that's where we're all going. So is there any real difference between replacing with having manual operators versus robotics? And if so, how are they? What are they?
I think recently it's definitely been leaning more towards robotics, replacing manual operation, and that's where those palletizing systems.
Or filling gaps, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we could get enough warehousing assembly workers, you know, that would be another issue, but with 20% unfilled positions, right?
Yeah, so that's definitely where the industry's leaning, where robotics can bring an uptick in cycle time and things like that, so.
Now, Mike, when you're designing solutions, do you have to do anything special when you're considering that I'm going to be integrating with a robot?
No, that's where kind of what Scott was saying with the tier ones. We work with them collaboratively, so that way we can build the cell to make it work with the robot
Yeah.
and use that in the back of our mind. Okay, there's going to be a robot cell here. Let's design it accordingly. And that's where the creativity in the design sometimes does lend itself to just, okay, this is the best solution, and we got to make sure it works.
At least you keep getting interesting problems out
For
of
sure,
it, you know,
yeah.
like you were saying earlier, I mean, it's constantly an evolving design element.
Well, and
It
nowadays,
doesn't get boring.
Yeah.
absolutely not. And it's not A to B so much anymore. I mean, we still do A to B conveyors, but now it's A to B, B to C, C to D, D to F, all the way up. That said, you know, when you're presenting to a robot, you have to material handle in a different way than you do if me or you are putting a can on a flat belt. Right? It has to be repeatable,
Yeah.
highly repeatable and accurate. We need to make sure that there's continuity with the presentation of the product to the robot. And by nature of the robotics getting more nuanced, the controls getting more nuanced and comprehensive, the applications or the sub-assembly processes become more microscopic, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
Which means everyone needs to elevate their game.
Right.
It needs to be more nuanced and more accurate and more
Conveyance
reliable.
plus fixturing.
Yeah.
100%.
Gotcha. Guys, is there anything we haven't touched on today that's important about material handling, where we're going, where we're at?
You have anything to add? I have a thought
Yeah.
for sure that I think would wrap this up
Cool.
nicely. With technology taking a step forward and material handling having to keep up, I think it's paramount for everybody in this industry to keep a couple things in mind. I've said it a couple times, you can't replace this,
Right.
but also the customer service and the value-add proposition has changed dramatically now as well. If we all understand that we operate in an industry where everything needs to work, but it's not always going to work the way we need it to work, there's always conflict, there's always problems, there's always crisis, big, small, you know, show-stopping issues.
Sure.
If we all operate under that understanding, because we don't live in a utopian world, right?
Yeah.
It's how you handle the conflict resolution
Yeah.
that speaks volumes to who you are as a customer, a supplier, and how much you value these relationships,
Yeah.
right? And I think, just speaking on behalf of MK in the 10 years I've been here, MK is very much a company that prides itself on the service side of the business.
Yeah.
Whether it's a $3,000 flat belt conveyor moving pizza dough, or a $3 million line integrating in with robotics to move sub-assembly automotive, we are there, beginning, middle, and end. And I think it's critical that every supplier in this industry values that core principle. We need to be responsive, we need to be fast, and we need to take another level of pride in the role we play in this ecosystem. And I think service is key.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if we're expecting more and more companies to adopt complex technical solutions that are often highly simplified, you know, compared to where they were a number of years ago, we still can't cut them loose after commissioning, you know. And I think a lot of the data visualizations we've been talking about, you know, leading to, including AI, leading to predictive, preventive maintenance operations, are helping to bring all that together.
That's the one thing that the technological front cannot truly fix.
Yeah.
AI can give people information, it can be a huge resource when there is a problem,
Yeah.
but still at the end of the day, when the customer calls, you've got to pick the phone call up.
Sure.
And you have to do it in a timely manner.
Yeah.
There's only so much the technology can take off of our plates.
Absolutely.
And so I think the better you serve and the more responsive you are and attentive you are to your customers, to your industry, and to the key players you work with,
Yep.
the better everything rises.
Couldn't agree more. Scott and Mike, it's been a pleasure today to talk about UK North America. I hope you guys have a great week, and thanks for taking some time to join us here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, a pleasure. We'll have you back on a future episode, talk more about material handling.
That'd be great.
Everybody out there, if you've got any questions for Scott and Mike, want to learn more about MK North America, I'm going to assume mknorthamerica.com would be a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. That, or send us the questions, and we'll make sure we get it off to Scott and to Mike. If you like this episode, we hope that you got a chance to see it on your favorite podcast platform. If you'd like to be on a future episode, just ping us down below. And until next time, just remember that manufacturing continues to matter, and have a great week.